Hello again. Teacher unions and school governing bodies in KwaZulu-Natal have raised concern about the impact of the recent floods on teaching and learning. This comes after the Department of Education in that province reported that about 72 schools in the province remained inaccessible for both pupils and teachers. This means that millions of rand will have to be spent to rebuild the school's infrastructure. For more on this, we're joined by the KwaZulu-Natal education spokesperson, Muzi Mahlambi. Thank you very much, sir, for availing your time, for availing yourself this afternoon. I do beg your pardon. So you presented a budget, or the department presented a budget this afternoon, and there's quite some healthy amounts that have been dedicated towards the education department in KwaZulu-Natal, over 57 billion rand. Perhaps let's start with the 2 billion rand that will be spent on administration. What does that mean?
Afternoon to your viewers at home. Like you have pointed out that out of 57.4 billion that has been allocated to our department, 90% of that goes to personnel, and then we are left with only 10% to do the rest of the programs, which will include your infrastructural programs, your programs to improve teaching and learning, your programs to digitalize our schools, your programs to improve sports, your scholar transport, your school nutrition. And given the fact that in the last financial 2 years we've had budget cuts, we are operating from the deficit in that sense, to say even if from a person that is not within the department might see an increment in terms of the budget allocated as compared to last year. But as the department, we can tell you that we are operating from a deficit. But the MEC has just delivered his budget speech. And out of the money that has been allocated, we've made serious commitments that are taking the department forward in terms of within the context of us operating within the 21st century. One of those will be to cut off the time that is spent by principals on the road in terms of making submissions. Just today, we are concluding a 5-day e-submission workshop in Durban, which is an effort for us to improve and digitalize the system that we are working with, actually all the systems. And we had started with some schools. We had identified digitalizing some 55 schools, but in the last financial year we were able to do so in 24 schools, as it were. But we are continuing with the mega fiscals.
Mr. Mahlambi, if you'd allow me please to just come in there. So you say of this 2 million, 90% will go towards personnel. If you can break that down for us, is this teachers, personnel within the education department?
Yes, that will be salaries for the personnel, be it educators, officials, and everyone that is employed within the department. Then the rest of the 10% will be the one that we try to squeeze everything that is a program that you and I, as parents or people outside the department, would say 57 billion. Wow, what an allocation! Only to find that we only have 10% of that to execute whatever that we need to do in terms of programs and in terms of the education of our learners, as it were, in general.
Almost 3 billion will go towards infrastructure development, and in the wake of the recent floods, are you able then to just help us understand how this money will be used there, and maybe perhaps give an update in terms of especially some of the schools that you're not able to access due to the magnitude of the damage?
The schools that we were not able to access when we took stock of what had happened just immediately after the floods, the 101, but they have since reduced to 119 as at this week's meeting with the district directors. And in terms of the budget that the MEC has just presented, he has alluded to a three-pronged approach where, for instance, we have identified that there are damages that schools, together with at the governing body level, they'll be able to deal with those damages, and there are damages that the district will be able to deal with, and then some serious damages will be allocated to implementing agencies to deal with those.
What about the eradication of pit latrines within the budget for infrastructure development?
It's a quite interesting a question you are asking, because we are saying that we want to be in articulation with the 21st century. It cannot be that at this day and age you still have schools that have pit latrines. We had identified in the last financial year that there were 1,377 schools that were operating with such ablutions, as it were, facilities. But we have since eradicated over 800 of those, and the rest of the schools are in construction, and we have committed, even in our budget speech, that come the end of this year, we shall have eradicated all of them in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, there are small and non-viable schools that we have since closed down, that will not prioritize in terms of attending to the ablution facility of such institution until we rethink as to how those institutions are going to be utilized moving forward.
In the budget, the MEC also noted that not only are you contending against the recent floods and the damage that has been caused to infrastructure, but vandalism and theft at school properties is a big problem, as well as drugs.
It's a serious scourge that we are having to face with, unfortunately, and that sets us back, because each time we deploy any equipment that we think that is taking the education of our learners forward, then the criminality sets in, and then it sets us back, and we are then making a call to our communities to say, look, schools at the end of the day are located within a particular community, so if we deploy a gadget to that particular school, the beneficiary of such gadgets will be the learners of that particular community. So we're calling upon communities to assist us in looking after these gadgets that we are deploying, not to become a black market, as it were, because criminals will ever have a reason to steal, because we, the community members, we provide a market for them. We buy from them all the time that they are selling these gadgets.
Very quickly for us, sir, the Department of Basic Education in that province, according to the MEC, is moving ahead with Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, which, among other things, seeks to criminalize disruption of schools. Meaning what?
Yeah, look, MEC has made a call to the community to say, look, there is no problem that will warrant closure of a school. Any problem that will emanate from any particular school, if we sit down, all of us, we put our heads together, we will be able to come up with a solution. But this thing of 1 week, 2 weeks, you'll find that parents are so angry such that they will want to disturb the education of their learners, to say they don't have such powers, number one. Number two, we are making a call for them to desist from such activities.
That's all the time we can afford. Thank you very much for availing yourself this Friday afternoon. Muzi Mahlambi speaks for the Education Department in KwaZulu-Natal. And that's